about 2 months back, started to look to see if there were any kind of blockbusters around me, if there was any actually in-person old school rental video stores, film stores, movie stores. What I was seeking was a replacement of streaming services on a very small scale, and what I was after was a almost deliberate decision making in choosing what to watch. I felt like I was essentially devaluing the art in some sense by going, oh, well, I'll just switch Netflix on and I'll just watch whatever is on there. And I wanted something to replace that by saying I will pay £3, £4, £5 and up to whatever the price is to watch an individual film, because I wanted it to be more intentional. I wanted there to be weight to what I chose. I wanted to feel almost disappointment if I watched a bad film, and a feeling that I have almost lost something if I choose a bad film. And this kind of need for a nascent in-person video store was one that was short-lived, because it just does not exist anymore, because streaming has fundamentally killed off the idea of the in-person rental store. There is no need to rent anything online or in person if you can just stream it for free, basically, or for a monthly membership, or even a cheaper yearly membership. What is the purpose of renting? And in this video, I would like to discuss why I think that the Letterboxd video rental store is a good remedy and cure to this problem. So of course, if you're on this channel watching this video, I'm sure you're probably familiar with Letterboxd, but just for those who aren't, Letterboxd is a film diary logging journal system where people use it to log, review, and rate all of the films that they have watched. I use it purely for the purposes of this, essentially, and because I like to know how much I've watched. I want to use it to hold myself accountable in some sense. I also want it to track basically the gut reaction that I have as soon as I come out of the film, or as soon as I come out of the cinema. I try to log it as quickly as possible. Now, Letterboxd has built this online community that is very, very loyal to them. And they have done it through clever social media marketing. They have done it through very interesting social media videos of asking famous actors and famous celebrities what their 4 favorite films are, and getting different people from all walks of life, different professions, different careers that these celebrities do, whether it be actors or athletes. And as a result of all this, Letterboxd has gained a reputation for itself as one of the key players in harboring and garnering a online community, a microspace or a hyperspace for the film community that is in some sense getting smaller and smaller, but in turn is getting more and more obsessed with the art form. If we take a very big and dystopian view of streaming services,
God in heaven,
if they are the Fahrenheit 451, the police in that book, in this scenario, or in this hypothetical, if they are the police that are erasing and getting rid of art, services like Letterboxd are direct remedies to that, at least in the acknowledgement that these films existed, and the logging and the ever-present community that exists on these services will always be there to say, remember when I watched this film that you can't watch anymore? However, enhancing that through a video rental store is something that I really respect about Letterboxd, because what they have essentially marketed their rental store around is the idea of discovery, and discovering films that maybe you haven't watched, maybe you are the biggest film fan possible. But what if we went and got a art house director like a Richard Linklater and said, pitch us some films that you would like on a video rental store. Give us some films that you think cinephiles and film obsessives should have seen at least once, and we will put them on a discovery service where you can rent it and broaden their perspectives even further than Letterboxd has allowed them to do. And the community that Letterboxd has already built up before this service was pretty obsessive, and I think that this is just the development of that. On the other hand, Letterboxd trying to curate films that are new or that are older that you may not have seen. So, to go with the older lens, I watched Kisapmata. I thought that this film was fucking excellent. This is a Filipino family drama, melodrama, maybe you would even call it, about a patriarchal family where the father is abusive to his wife and daughter and refuses to let his daughter leave and go and live with her husband. And essentially, he uses a myriad of tactics to keep both the mother and the daughter under his sort of sway, I guess. And what I really appreciated about this film is that you don't really see a lot of the abuse take place on camera. It's kind of just implied, and you see more subtle things. So, for example, when the phone rings in the middle of the night, they go downstairs and the father is already sat in silence by the phone, not answering it. And there is an implication here that this phone does not ring when I am asleep. This phone does not wake me up. It is not there for that. And I really appreciate the subtlety of this. It ends in a very climactic and massive way, but it does fit in the narrative of what the film is trying to explore. And I want more films like this to appear on this service. And they've also got films like Poison, which is the first ever Todd Haynes film, his directorial debut that was, I believe, a queer horror film in the 90s. And so these films, in my opinion, are probably priced correctly at about £4 or £5 here in the UK. These films are mainly out of circulation, and the majority of people that are going to be featured in these films aren't going to receive direct profits and probably aren't going to profit in any way from these films being on the service. It's probably going to be mainly studios that profit from these. So, to a film obsessive like myself, it seems quite valid that £5 is probably about the right price. I am willing to pay more when that profit is directly going to both Letterboxd and the artists that have worked on the film. And this is where there was a bit of controversy when this service first went live. When the service first went live, it featured films such as It Ends, which was a 2025 film, didn't even have a distributor, premiered for about a month on Letterboxd, much to the dismay of a lot of other people. It cost about £15 or £16, and there were a lot of arguments of, oh, well, this isn't really affordable. What about the other people who can't afford this? Do they not deserve the right to watch this film? This should be cheaper. All this sort of discourse bubbled up around the service. The key part to me about these releases, they are new. This isn't a film from 1980 or 1960, where you probably should charge a bit cheaper, because you probably can find that on a streaming service, it will probably be cheaper than £15 to go and get the 400 Belows on Blu-ray. However, for new releases where you have a group of 20-year-olds who are attempting to just profit off this tiny, tiny film, £15 does not seem that expensive to me. And if we are talking about trying to be more deliberate in what we're purchasing, if we're talking about countering this mass consumerism model of art, of film, the only way to do that is to put your money where your mouth is. It is not possible to just put in £2-3 and, whatever you can afford. For artists who are trying to develop feature films and who are trying to make stuff and put it out there and make sure people see it, that doesn't really cut it. So for me, new releases like It Ends deserve that kind of fee. But even if that film wasn't worth it, hypothetically, we should be willing to support new artists, especially young artists who are attempting to find their way through the industry, who can't even net distributors for their films. We should be willing and able to put our money where our mouth is. And the harsh reality is that if you can't afford it, unfortunately, it just might not be for you, and that's pretty fucking horrible, but that's kind of just how it works, and not everything has to be for you. If you've got 2 kids, if you've got a mortgage to pay, if you're struggling, if inflation has hit you hard, if the cost of living has skyrocketed, and you're going, well, I really wanted to watch this film, but it's £15, how can I justify that? Don't justify. That's not a good decision.
Stop it. Get some help.
And therefore, the burden has to be on those who can afford it. It is on those who are so deeply obsessed with this art form that they are willing to put their money where their mouth is. It's not for those who are struggling. It is for those who put money away every month purely to put that money towards this art form. That is who this is for. That's not to be mean. That's not to be rude. That's not to discount anyone's experiences. And that's not to say it's not upsetting if you can't watch films you want to watch. But not everything is for everyone, is the harsh reality. And overall, I have to say, I'm pretty fucking excited for whatever this film service becomes. If it becomes more of a traditional streaming service, becomes more of a Netflix, if it becomes more of a Prime, I will dramatically lose interest. But right now, when it is a curated service where you have directors like Richard Linklater involved in the space, I am very interested in that. And I would like to see what someone like a Christopher Nolan would put on his recommended films before you watch The Odyssey. That sounds pretty interesting to me. And I think that this service hopefully has a great future.